Benin, Oshogbo, Lagos, and all these other parts of Nigeria. We are extremely grateful. Those of you watching us from Kenya, those of you watching from South Africa. I received lots of messages from Mauritania. Thank you so much for doing the watching across the continent. This morning, we shall be looking at a number of topics on the show, and as typical of Pan-African television, we start our morning conversations with an African story. We'll be looking at the coup in Niger, and Mali won't stand idly by if ECOWAS intervenes in Niger. The Daily Guide, page 5, has captured this story. Also, Occupy Jubilee House protest. Ghanaian celebs join the move over misgovernance and hardship. Alan to resign. We know there's a press conference coming up at 2 p.m. today, and former Trade and Industry Minister Alan John Kojo Kyerematen, he'll be speaking. What is his next move? Is he resigning? Is he going to run independent as rumored? Well, we'll be looking at that as well. And then finally, Ghana's public debt rises to 575.5 billion as of June 2023. These are topics that we've tabled for this morning's discourse. I'll be more than pleased to receive your messages, your text, your opinions via our Facebook page, facebook.com/Pan-African Television. We are streaming live, as earlier stated. Also, text lines have been displayed on the screens. Make sure you do well to send in your messages. I'll be more than glad to read them as the show progresses. I'm meeting these two gentlemen for the very first time. Paragraph Boachidankwa is government spokesperson on governance and security. I've seen him on a number of platforms. He has an excellent oratory prowess. I've been observing. He speaks so well, and he defends the government, and that's what he's here to do with this morning. Mr. Paragraph, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
It's a pleasure to have you in our studios for the very first time.
It's a real privilege.
I don't want us to recount what transpired about a year ago when you were actually meant to be here, but you are here today. You've defied the range to be with us this morning to have conversations bordering on Ghana and to the large extent Africa with us, and we're extremely grateful.
Thank you very much, and a very good morning to you. And I didn't know that you're going to throw in the issue that happened the last time, just for context for people not to misconstrue. So the last time I was invited to come on set here, I came, stayed for over an hour and a half, and you were not ready.
It didn't happen.
Yes, you were not ready to host me. So it's good to be here. You have a very nice studio, and I'm glad that I'm here. I'm glad that the continent of Africa would be hearing the very good work of President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo on this continent, who is setting an example for the rest of the African leaders. It's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Right. I also have with me from the camp of the National Democratic Congress, Dr. Titus K. Bayo. He is NDC's parliamentary candidate for Lambusi and former General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association. Dr. Bayo, good morning.
Good morning, and good morning for having me.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Lambusi is in which region?
In the Upper West region.
The Upper West region.
Yes.
Well, I've been to the Upper West.
Yes.
I don't know Lambusi. I've been to Jirapa.
Okay.
I've been to Sisala West.
Okay, so
particularly to Tumu and then Golu and all these other places. But
so you got to our neighboring constituencies. Lambusi was actually carved out of the then Jirapa constituency. And we border the Sisala West.
Wow.
And then to the north, our boundary there is with Burkina Faso. And then to the southern part, we have the Nandom constituency.
Is it a seat occupied by the MPP?
Currently, yes.
One of the 3 seats in the
region that the MPP took from us. That we are very hopeful of taking back the seat.
You've monitored the grounds and you see that it's fertile for...
Oh, I think we are taking it. But as the late Sir John admonished us, we only have to be cautious of delegates, in this case, the electorate. But let me use the opportunity to say good morning to the good people of Lambusi and good morning to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the next president of the Republic of Ghana, and the hope that Ghanaians are waiting for. Let me say good morning to them and to everybody. And once again, also thank you for having me in your studios for the first time. And then I'm glad to meet my colleague here as well. Thank you.
Right. Without further ado, we'll get into the conversation for today's edition of the show, 25th September. Today is actually a special day for me, by the way. Today I turn a year older. So to my good self, a happy birthday. I pray and hope fervently that the coming years are filled with joy, success, and everything that I wish for. We'll start a conversation. We are going to have our conversations regarding Niger. We know that a few months ago there was a coup d'etat. There's been a lot of issues that have arisen. We do know for a fact that ECOWAS at some point in time toyed with the idea of a military invasion. A lot of people spoke against it, and of course, rightly, they've decided to shelve that one for the meantime. As to what is going to happen again, we have no idea. But some Malian diplomats have been speaking. Let me read the story as captured by today's edition of the Daily Guide newspaper. It says, Mali's top diplomat has warned that his country will not stand idly by if foreign powers intervene in neighboring Niger. Mali remains strongly opposed to any military interventions by ECOWAS. And Foreign Minister Abdoulaye Diop said on Saturday while representing Mali's military junta at the UN General Assembly, any invasion of this country constitutes a direct threat to the peace and security of Mali, but also to the peace and security of the region, and will necessarily have serious consequences. The West African region, the West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS, has threatened to stage a military intervention in Niger after democratically elected President Mohamed Bazoum was overthrown in a coup in July. The country's new military ruler, General Abdurrahmani Chiani, has proposed a 3-year transition back to democracy, which ECOWAS has rejected. ECOWAS has repeatedly called for Bazoum to be released from house arrest and reinstated as the country's leader. It has sent multiple delegations to Niamey to find a diplomatic solution. A diplomatic solution that has been elusive, by the way. And so, without further ado, I'll start the conversation with Mr. Palgrave Boakye-Dankwa, who is a governance expert. And so, his knowledge on issues like this cannot be doubted. But then let me ask him the question. It appears that there's some form of alliance between Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, all of these countries that have experienced coup d'etats in the past 3 years, I would say. And all of these is motivated by some anti-French sentiments, if you ask me. Now, ECOWAS came to tell us that they may resort to a military invasion if all other avenues fail. I know that they are still exploring diplomacy, which is not working, by the way. But at this point in time, is it a decision to even consider at all? Has it died completely? Would there ever come a time where ECOWAS would say, okay, we've had enough of this military junta and we are going to invade Niger regardless? Have we gotten to that stage? Or it's something that has been forgotten entirely? Mr. Boakye-Dankwa.
Thank you very much. I think that the sub-region is extremely very fragile as it relates to coup d'etats and the overthrow of democratically elected governments. Clearly, ECOWAS as a regional bloc with 15 members have been very strong in their decision with countries that have gone through such chaos, and has also played out their various sanctions that has been in place. Started with Mali, then we came to Burkina Faso, then Guinea, some part of Gabon, Gambia, Cameroon was threatened, and now Niger. I think that the very goal of ECOWAS is to ensure that diplomatic channels are used in averting the various challenges. Now, one of the things that I can say as it relates to military juntas are that the military are not trained to govern. Military are trained for combat. And so when the military takes over a democratically elected government, the longest span of time they can govern is about 3 months, which is 90 days. Beyond that, the military would be out of any democratic ideas and ideology, and then the rest will be combatant. which is why when ECOWAS met at their extraordinary meetings and even had the Chief of Defense meetings in Accra, there was a directive for the ECOWAS military standby force to be activated fully. Because the people that can best understand military are the military themselves. And in understanding the military, you need to ensure that when there's a military ECOWAS standby force, it sends shivels down the spine of the military juntas that the rest of the sub-region is not pleased with their position of an overthrow. Now, these are the mathematics of it. The military juntas in Niger gave reasons why they put President Bazoum in house arrest. In the midst of these reasons, when ECOWAS brought out their sanctions, ECOWAS gave them a 3-month moratorium to be able to return back to democracy and hold an immediate election so that they can be able to have a new leader, or release President Bazoum from house arrest and his family from house arrest and bring them back. From where we sit, and when I say from where we sit as government, we are confident that democracy should not be overthrown within the sub-region of West Africa. In the midst of that, the military juntas in Niger has stated that they would be ready to hand over power in 3 years, which is 36 months. I find it very strange that anyone would want to go through a process of democracy. I mean, Niger has been extremely very stable over these years, as we know it. And that if you are complaining about economic downtown, if you are complaining about unemployment, if you are complaining about the strength of France in your country, complaining about minerals that France wants to get out of your country, uranium and all of the other minerals, and you are wanting to return back to democratic rule in 36 months. When I sit at the table, I always ask the question, what's your motive for the overthrow? And so the perception out there that France is having an overriding influence on Niger is not what it is entirely. Because there are a lot of the security details that would not be good for media conversation. But one of the things that we would need to state very strongly is that, look at the military juntas. They've taken over Niger. They are beginning to start a process of governance. They've gone through almost 40 days of governance. And I mean, I've said that the military are not trained to govern. I mean, in the manner in which we know their training. I mean, in recent times, their training is becoming a bit more modernized and moving away from combating. But the grand scheme of military is not to govern. And so if a military takes over, the best time they can be in good leadership is just for about 90 days. The rest would be disasters. Which is why ECOWAS is ensuring, because ECOWAS also put a moratorium for Mali, that by December 2024, Mali should be able to return back to democratic rule. Now, if ECOWAS does not enforce these strong arms and use Niger as an example, it means that the rest of the sub-region, and in terms of countries that already have military juntas, would disregard ECOWAS influence. But there's also some neighboring countries within the sub-region who are also an influence. I mean, one of them is Algeria. Algeria borders to Niger. Who is in Algeria is not part of the ECOWAS region, but they held a lot of authority and power and influence, especially from the European side. So there's a lot of dynamics. And from all the literature that I have read, I do not think that there's a lot influence coming from France. There is a lot more influence internally within the Nigerian government. And I mean, I think that at a later time when this whole chaos is resolved, ECOWAS will be able to bring a position paper. And once ECOWAS brings the position paper, they'll be able to state various threats that were against the democracy within the Nigerian government. The other side of this as well is that there's been about 4 to 5 terror attacks in Niger. So where lies the strength of the military junta? Because the entire goal of the sub-region of West Africa is to fight against terror. And terrorists are continually growing. And so, and we know that the goal of the terrorists is to get into the Gulf of Guinea to perpetuate their acts of piracy. Which is why for us as a government, and I mean the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's government, has ensured that the Gulf of Guinea is protected against any piracy and pirates act and any terror acts. It's as a result of that that the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has purchased, and in a very long time, in this Fourth Republic, purchased vessels for the Ghana Navy to ensure that they can continually be on the high seas and protect the high seas from pirates acts. So the question really is, are these military juntas terrorists in disguise? Because once you take over a country democratically and you put in a military rule and you allow terrorists to continue in terms of terrorist acts to continue, then the real question to ask is, are you part in terms of a grand scheme to ensure that terrorists can have their way? But one of the goals that we have as a country, being a member of the ECOWAS sub-region, is to ensure that our citizens in Niger are safe. And so we recall that when the overthrow happened in July, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo immediately held consultations together with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs with our mission in Niger to ensure that Ghanaians are safe and Ghanaians are repatriated back into Ghana. So far we've had a very smooth exit for Ghanaians back into Ghana. But you realize that the airports and the air corridors were closed. And so we needed to use diplomatic channels through the Benin corridor to bring our Ghanaians safely into Ghana. So coups are not a solution to economic challenges. Coups are very, very backward. We would encourage every sitting president to ensure that your economy becomes robust and strong, address the mitigating challenges that would cause people to threaten your governance and threaten your democracy. And we know that the Nigerian juntas are going to align very well with the ECOWAS sanctions that have been put in place. I'm aware that the diplomatic channels are being used very strongly. In recent times, they've opened for consultative conversations between the ECOWAS convoys and envoys that have gone to Niger. But this is principally important because the United Nations General Assembly is ongoing. And so the rest of the sub-region will come into focus, which is why our President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo highlighted very well that the rest of the global world has been impacted by the African slavery over the years in terms of manpower to be able to develop and build their countries. And I'm proud of our president. I think that everybody should be proud of our president in standing up continually to the Western world, in holding up brief what is important for us to come back to the continent, and asking that, I mean, all the human capital that were sent into Europe and the Americas and the rest of the world to develop the world, I think that the extended benefit of resources should be given back to the continent of Africa. And I think that every well-meaning continental leader, every well-meaning Ghanaian would be proud of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo in making these statements in no other place than the United Nations. I mean, the headquarters of all countries. And I'm glad we are on Pan-African TV. Nkrumah has become the hallmark of the continent. He preached a lot about unity and spoke a lot about liberation and spoke a lot about the real Pan-Africanism. And I think that President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo exudes that. I mean, in all of his narratives and all of his comments, he's continually bringing the mind of the West into Africa to know that the things that we have been deprived of, this is time that those things must be given back to us. So Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso are countries that our eyes are on. And I'm sure that if the military juntas, especially within the governing presidents, are able to do a palace coup, then like the Minister of Defense said on the floor of the House in Parliament, no other country is safe, which is why ECOWAS needs to be strong and robust in ensuring that the sanctions are adhered to.
Now, you're talking about the strength of ECOWAS and how it is important that it becomes strong in that regard. But then again, are actions of these ECOWAS leaders not inimical to the interests of the people in the first place? Because look at, for instance, a country like La Côte d'Ivoire. The issues there are plenty. And how the current head of state of the country was able to tinker with the constitution in order to secure another term, we know. Now we talk about Guinea, where Alpha Condé also decided to tinker with the constitution and run for another term, and that actually instigated a coup d'etat. And it's an issue particularly peculiar to the sub-region. Issues of people in power, presidents deciding that in order to elongate their span, then they tinker with the constitution to secure another term. So one asks the question, in as much as we do not approve of coup d'etats, what is the other option? Should we have to still endure that form of governance where leaders would tinker with the constitution in order to be eligible to run for another term? What should we resort to as a people? It appears that the West African leaders themselves are not doing right by themselves, and they are not doing the right things that would actually ensure confidence, that people would repose confidence in them.
ECOWAS as a regional bloc has a role to play
in these other countries, but need to say that every single member of ECOWAS is a sovereign state, and so ECOWAS can only provide guidance because a lot of these countries have their own independent constitutions, and in the last meetings that I participated in, ECOWAS stated very strongly that having looked at all the sub-regional constitutions, they have come to realize that each constitution gives a two-term presidential mandate to each leader. And so ECOWAS is going to put in their regulations to ensure that no president has the opportunity to amend a constitution to run a third term. You recall that the AU chair, Macky Sall, wanted to extend his term. ECOWAS frowned upon it, and that has been reversed clearly. So there are very strong benefits of the ECOWAS sub-region, but it bewills on the people of the various countries to ensure that their leader does not run a referendum to be able to change their constitution and amend their constitution to run a third term or a fourth term. But ECOWAS can only just provide guidance. I mean, the authority of the constitution of the various member states is in the member states and its citizens. ECOWAS can just provide guidance and ensure that these issues does not occur.
Right, let me now turn my attention to Dr. Bayo, who represents the National Democratic Congress. Do you agree with Mr. Boakye Dankwa, or you beg to differ on a number of issues he's raised? For instance, he's telling us that the junta only decide to stage a coup under the guise of, there is economic hardship and all of that. Meanwhile, they have their own personal interest. That is why they'll come out with a plan that says that it will require some 3 years in order to return the country to constitutionalism.
Yeah, so as a Democrat, I would want to state for the fact that coups are condemnable. It's not the way to lead any country. And so I won't sit here to endorse the coup. I think that democratic governance is the way to go. But the influence of France, I think he's downplayed it a little bit, and that I beg to differ a bit there, because the coincidence is one too many that most of these things are happening in the Francophone countries. And when these coups take place, you listen to the citizens who rally support behind these junta leaders, and the emphasis is they are tired of this influence of France. Without going into those detailed diplomatic circles, we all know the relationship between the French Central Bank and these countries, and the difficulties people are going through. So we cannot downplay that influence, and we cannot downplay the coincidence, because if you look at it, most of this is happening in the Francophone countries, which tells us that there is something there. So I think that is something that has to be looked at a bit differently. Secondly, if you look at the reasons given for the coup, I don't think there's any justification whatsoever for a coup in any country. We must find better ways of doing things. And they talked about insecurity, they talked about the economy, and therefore, because they are military, people believe that, okay, they can handle the security situation. Unfortunately, they haven't had full grasp of the security situation, but understandably so, because terrorist acts are very difficult to deal with. Once they have infiltrated the system, it's not by a command of a military that ceases. So it will take some time, and I think that the people give them that confidence to try and deal with it, and they'll have to prove that they are able to deal with it. The other thing I would say is that what is happening and the response of ECOWAS. Yes, ECOWAS as a corporate entity should not endorse coups, and I am happy they are trying to use the diplomatic route now, because a lot of us spoke up against their intended military action. You see, and the danger that ECOWAS has put itself in is that when you issue a threat and you are not able to carry that out, then now you open the floodgates for anybody to do whatever they want to do. So I hope that they will strongly explore that diplomatic angle and try and bring closure to this. Returning the country to democracy is what is preferred. No matter how long the military stays, I think we have seen our share of military governance here. Sometimes it's necessary, but never the best way to govern any country. That's why we have returned ourselves to democracy, and we are on that path. So I hope that the military can sanitize the system quickly, return the country to democratic governance. But I think some important lesson that the ECOWAS leaders must learn from what is happening in these countries is what you have alluded to. If leaders try to change constitutions, leaders try to play with the emotions of people, demonstrate leadership that is not empathetic of the suffering of the people, demonstrate leadership that is showing that we don't care what you do, then people are frustrated and they have no means of venting out this frustration. Now, this, if you dovetail it into our country, our current economic conditions that we are in, and then people want opportunity to vent out this anger, and basic rights like the right to demonstrate, if that is suppressed, if we are having people having difficulty getting registered on the voter registration system so that they can have an opportunity to express how they feel, either to approve or disapprove of their government, these are the frustrations that when they are bottled up, then when somebody sparks up something, the person gets a lot of support from the general masses. So I think that leaders must be very sensitive to the people they are leading. We make the statement that power emanates from the people, but when people get power, they kind of forget that they are holding the state's resources in trust for the people. So that empathy of leadership must be there. When we are suffering, let us see that in our leaders, that they recognize that we are all in hard times. When people are angry and want to show that anger, they should be given the opportunity to show it. And then we should really rethink our democracy. Is it delivering the dividend that we want to get? And I think that that is the kind of questions that we are having in Ghana after 30 years of democratic rule. That how do we restructure this democracy to give us the needed dividend? This is what I think has been lacking in most of these Francophone countries and other countries where you're having these schools, where one leader is in for a very long time and you are not seeing anything. You don't have any opportunity to express your anger. You don't have any opportunity to even make any change to the governance. You don't think that your vote matters. You can vote and then the verdict will be stolen. When these things happen, then people find alternative means to vent out their anger. So I think the emphasis is that democracy is the way to go, but we must look at a democracy that is peculiar to our setting.
The type of democracy we are practicing in Africa currently, and most part of the West African sub-region, I don't think it's helpful to our cause. And you will see that the youth will continue coming up every day with this kind of protest and this kind of anger, wanting an opportunity to vent out that anger. So responsive leadership is what is required. Responsive leadership to the present and current needs of the people. Don't downplay threats that you see. Don't feel that I have control of all the state apparatus and therefore I can do whatever I want to do. That is what leads to things like this. So definitely not to support any coup. I will support a swift return to democracy, but I would urge all democratically elected governments in the West African sub-region to be sensitive and responsive to the needs of the people who elected them first, before anything to do with paymasters elsewhere outside of the continent.
Right. Now, you're talking about a democracy, a type of democracy,
yes,
a type of African democracy.
Yes.
Not necessarily towing the lines of the West.
Yes.
Or let's say America. What is the type of democracy that Africa wants? Because, for instance, if you ask me, is there a democracy where a head of state or a president can say that, okay, I feel strongly that I'm doing the right things for my country, and so I'm going to go for another term and again and again and again and again. I'm saying this because you look at a country like Kagame's Rwanda, for instance.
Yes.
You go there, the people it appears that he's doing the right things.
Yeah.
And the people are pretty satisfied with what he's doing over there. But there's somebody who is going for a fourth term, term number 4.
Yeah.
So in this case, is it right? That is the only question I want to find out from you. Is it a type of democracy that finds expression in the African setting?
No, I don't think that is the kind of democracy we would call for. Democracy that should be governed by the rule of law. The people have approved a constitution for themselves. No leader should alter that constitution. You see, no matter how good you are as a leader, it is not possible that you are the only wise man in that country. It's not possible. And you see, when you invest in systems and structures, then even when you leave power, you are not worried because you know the systems will run. So if the government in Rwanda is putting in proper systems, it shouldn't matter who the next president is. There may be subtle changes here and there, but they should be governed and led by the systems that they have put in place. Now, when I say the democracy we are practicing in Africa is not helping us, and it's the reason why we are having some of these challenges. Let me give you an example. If you look at the evolution of democracy in the West, even the US, and the others that we are trying to emulate their democracy, it didn't start the way it is today. Okay, and democracy and development of the people, your level of development really reflect the type of democracy that is applicable to you. Unfortunately for us, we have copied a type of democracy and we have modified it to a way that the country doesn't harness the full human resource available to us. So you have a system, and I'm taking of Ghana for instance. If the NDC is in power, they use NDC people or related members of the party who are knowledgeable, or technocrats who will build the country. When the NPP comes, it's the same. Therefore, it means that at any point in time, we are leaving out a very good section of the country in contributing to the development of this country. You have a system where the president appoints almost everybody in this country. The president is clothed with too many powers. This is what our current constitution has given us. And after 30 years, we have to relook it and look at it. And I don't think that any person is so good that that person should be the only person to govern. Now, the case of Rwanda, we are seeing it externally. I'm sure if you go into Rwanda, you speak to people. Some people may have different views of it. There are others who may wish that, look, you've had enough, let someone else try, and let's see how it will go. My point is that any good leader must plan a succession, must plan how to leave a legacy, build the systems. If the systems are built around you, the leader only, then you are not a good leader. Because it means that when you leave, everything is going to go down. When you are no more in power, you are scared that people are going to bring everything else that you have done down. But we should have a situation where the police respond to the citizens, We should have a situation where civil servants respond to the citizens and don't care who else is the leader, and are serving the people who have put them there. If we had that kind of leadership, then I don't think we are going to have an issue. So I think that the kind of democracy I'm talking about is not just longevity of term. No. It's democracy that respects the rule of law. Democracy that believes that their power truly lies in the people. Democracy in which the people are there to serve, not to enrich themselves. Democracy where people do not just use the law. You see, the law is a funny thing. Not everything legal is helpful. Something may be legal, but not helpful to the people. So if you want to play around with the law, you can always play around with it, but be sensitive to the people you are leading. And that's the kind of leadership I think Africa needs.
And I'm waiting for the day where we'll be able to draw a distinction between the sort of democracy practiced in the West and the sort of democracy that we believe is ideal for Africa. We are talking about longevity and all of that, but you take a case like Libya, for instance.
Yes.
Gaddafi was in power for a long time.
Yes.
And the people only realized that
he was doing very well.
He was doing very well when he was ousted.
Yes.
And killed.
Yes.
And now you look at Libya, it's a pale shadow of what it was.
What it was. It's unfortunate.
You understand?
I think the situation in Libya is very unfortunate.
So the distinction as to what kind of democracy we want as a people.
Yeah.
You know, and exactly how to go about it. I feel it's a vast conversation. But let's move away from that topic. Many thanks for doing the watch, and those of you who have sent in messages. I'll take time to read a few before we progress to our next topic for discussion. Yusuf Hussein says, I'm Lawame from UCC. ECOWAS should speak when things are going wrong. They should not wait for things to go really bad before they intervene. Good morning, boss. Thank you so much for the message. Ken Williams says, indeed, corrupt civilian regimes like ours that oppress, abuse, kill citizens or manipulate electoral processes to rig elections are worse than coup makers who make nonsense of democracy and give it a bad name. Zan Jacob says Africans wouldn't need any reparation if African politicians like Akufo-Addo stop clearing corrupt officials in their governments, or if they stop stealing national resources for their pockets and use the resources for national development. This one came from Zan Jacob. Okay, this one, yes, says there's nothing to be proud of when it comes to the president. Okay, Emmanuel Dazi says okay, some of your messages are not readable. Please make sure they are very clear. This is Calvin Bayo watching you live from Kani. I wish Dr. Beyo all the best and a healthy life. Okay, the moment Musa Abatwa says the moment please start to behave as if they are a law of themselves, democracy becomes autocracy. Recently, police adopted dangerous strategy of using ex parte motions to deny citizens of expressing their constitutional rights at the 90th hour. The current police administration are setting a bad precedent for this country. Support Occupy Jubilee House. Okay, thank you very much. Papa Ike says, good morning to Pan-African TV. Good morning, Ghana. Thank you so much for your message. Let's proceed to our next topic of discussion. I'm hoping that we are brief on this particular subject so that we can go to other topics. It has got to do with what's going to happen later today. I think at the Movenpick Hotel, where former Trade and Industry Minister Alan John Kojo Kyerematen will be making an address. He will be telling us his next move. People have speculated. There are a lot of speculations going out there. There are a lot of rumors out there that he feels hard done by with regards to what has transpired or what is going on in the New Patriotic Party, where he feels that it appears that government or the ruling administration has engineered everything towards one candidate. That candidate, the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. And so we know he actually decided not to be part of the November 4 Congress that will be taking place, I think, a few weeks from now. What is he going to be doing next? And this is where people have been speculating. Now, there are rumors are rife that there's a man who'd want to run or still contest in the 2024 elections, and he's going to do that not on the ticket of any political party, not on the ticket of the NPP, because now he is not eligible to, not on the NDC. I don't know if the NDC are going to accept it. Even if you do, I don't know whether you are going to
candidate already.
I don't know whether you are going to just catapult him or elevate him to that status of the flag bearer of the party, but as an independent candidate. And I'm going to start with someone who belongs to the ruling administration, the NPP, Kojo Kyerematen. On this note, I want to find out from him that the assertions going on that the party hasn't treated, the man fairly, and so he has decided to leave. I'm hearing he may decide to resign today, and it is only upon resignation that he can contest as an independent candidate. Is there any iota of truth? Does it find expression? Is it true that the government machinery has engineered everything towards the vice president? And what do you expect today? Also, I want to ask the question whether today's press briefing could have any consequence on the fortunes of the NPP going into the 2024 elections.
Thank you. You have asked this is A-level section B question. But let me start it off this way. That the New Patriotic Party is a party that has come a very long way. I recall very well reading the literature of the gathering of Dr. J.B. Dankwa, Pa Grant, William Oforiatta at Salt Pond in 1947 when they formed the United Gold Coast Convention Party. Now, at that formation, it was for every single person from the length and breadth of this country, then Gold Coast, now Ghana, to be a part of the UGCC. Over the years, we've had leaders of the New Patriotic Party who have risen to become presidents of this country called Ghana. In 1992, when we held an election, it was Adu Boahen who was the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party. Then candidate John Ajay Kufuor also contested. In 1996, Adu Boahen contested again with then candidate John Ajay Kufuor. In the 2000 election, John Ajay Kufuor won the flag bearership, and the Ghanaian people were tired of the then NDC, or the PNDC then NDC, and President Ajay Kufuor became president of the Republic on the ticket of the New Patriotic Party, especially for the Fourth Republic, and governed and led from 2001 to 2008 or 2009 January 7th. At a flag bearership race in 2008, Ghanaians will recall that then candidate Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo stood. To be fair, he had even stood before. Stood and won the flag bearership race. He went even for a second round and won. And then lost the 2008 election to the NDC, John Evans Atta Mills. In the 2012 presidential primaries, then candidate Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo stood for the race and won, but lost the general election in 2012, according to the Supreme Court, even though we are disagreed.
He lost the election at the polls.
President,
not at the Supreme Court.
President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo stood again for the primaries in 2015-2016, and stood and won the primaries as a flag bearer and then won the general election with an overwhelming 1 million votes. It's a man that has been standing consistently over these years, not giving up on the New Patriotic Party, loving the New Patriotic Party, standing with the New Patriotic Party, staying with the New Patriotic Party in difficult times, in hard times, stood with the New Patriotic Party and gave victory to the New Patriotic Party in the 2016 general election. Again, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, now president, stood for the primaries in the 2000 election for the MPP and became the flag bearer and won again in the country overwhelmingly to continue his second term. Constitutionally, from the New Patriotic Party, we must run an election a year into a major election. And so the party opened up the nominations for people to pick up nomination forms. There were over 10 people that picked up nomination forms to stand as flag bearers for the New Patriotic Party. These forms were submitted, vetting processes were put in place, and the reason why we said we're going to do a super delegates congress came from President Kufuor's time, when we had an overwhelming 17 people standing to become flag bearers. And so we said, for us to cut down the number, let's do a super delegates congress. All these 10 people that had picked up forms, that had gone for vetting, that had passed their vetting, that had gone to pick up their position on the ballot paper. Kennedy Japan as number 1, Alan Kojo Kyerematen as number 2, Joe Gate as number 3, Kojo Poku as number 4, Dr. Free Akoto as number 5, Kwabena J. Japan as number 6, Francis Adainimo as number 7, Kofi Kunedu Apreku as number 8, Boache Jako as number 9, and the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, Mahmoud Bawumia, as number 10. Went into a major super delegates congress. Every single person that I've listed, he had an opportunity to campaign to delegates within the New Patriotic Party. And then these super delegates now needed to exercise their democratic rights and franchise. We went into the major election on the 26th of August 2023, and for the first time in the history of the New Patriotic Party, we had 6 people coming out as the first 5. Why do I say so? Because we had Mahmoud Bawumia leading with over 600 votes. We had Kennedy Japan coming with 100 plus votes.
135.
100 plus votes. We had Alan Kojo Kyerematen coming with over 90 votes. And then there was who was the 4th?
The former Greek minister.
Yes, Afri Akoto was the 4th. And then there was a tie between Francis Adainimo and Boache Jako for the 5th position. And then the party decided that the first 4 have passed. Let's do a neck voting so that we can decide the 5th and 6th position, which had never happened in the political party. I was of the opinion that we were looking, the constitution says that you look for 5 people on the position. I would have wished that we would have gone into the November 4th election with 6 candidates, with all of them having 5 positions, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5-5. But peace prevailed, and Boache Jako stepped down for Francis Adainimo to take the 5th position.
He stepped down because he was dissatisfied with the process?
Well, you see, the constitution of the New Patriotic Party gives credence and order for people who are dissatisfied with issues to come and report the issues to the executives, so that those issues can be addressed neither did Boakye Jakun send a petition to the National Executive Council, neither did he send it to the regional executives, neither did he even send it to the constituency executives for it to rise through the channels. None of those routes were deployed. Same with Alan Kojo Kyerematen. On the eve of the days when we were all trying to look at preparation into the November 4th, we saw that he had written a letter to withdraw from the NPP flag bearership race, and so didn't take part in the balloting as it is for the November 4th election. You know, Alan Kojo Kyerematen is a very fine gentleman. He's an astute politician. He served this country very well. I have given guidance and counsel from a very young position to a senior person that within the New Patriotic Party, if you have issues, there are legal routes within which you can use. But the council of Alan Kojo Kyerematen has not used that route. Today, either 2 o'clock or 5 o'clock, I'm not too sure which of the times it is, he's going to make a big announcement. And the question is, would it affect the New Patriotic Party and the fortunes of the 2024 general election? I think that it would be outright pride and arrogance on my part to state that it will not affect it. But it would be legitimately researchable to be able to ask some viable questions. And I do not want to predict what his decision of his involvement in politics in this country would be. But be it as it may, the New Patriotic Party is a formidable party. It would be sad today that Alan Kojo Kyerematen would resign from the New Patriotic Party if that is his intent. It would be sad today that Alan Kojo Kyerematen, who has been a minister in President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's government, who has been a minister in President John Agyeku Nkufuor's government, who has been the longest serving trade minister in this country, would want to withdraw from a tradition that he so believed in. It would be sad for me as a young political watcher to see these things happening. But I would want to reserve some of my other comments till after his press conference. Then we can have some larger conversations. But what I will say is that I would have wished that Alan Kojo Kyerematen had stayed in the race, gone into the election, lost honorably, and stay in the political party and build the political party.
Lost honorably. You don't think he would have won?
No, if you follow my commentaries from February, I said that I didn't think that Alan Kojo Kyerematen will win this election. And there were reasons why I had made that statement. Because you see, I am desiring to lead my people at Ibuakwa North as their parliamentary candidate for the New Patriotic Party. When you work the ground, and the NDC candidate is here, he will tell you, when you work the ground, the rewards will come from the delegates. True or false?
That's true. That's it.
The question we need to ask, Alan Kojo Kyerematen was the first person to resign from President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's government in the second term. True or false? He was the first person to declare his intent to run for the NPP flag bearership race. True or false? He was the first person to launch his campaign, the Great Transformational Plan. True or false? He was the first person to begin engaging delegates. So why would he have less than 100 votes after going ahead of all the people who came late to even start campaigning?
Is it true that there's some form of machinations from the government that seem to back one candidate, and that may have accounted for
my brother
for him not having confidence in the whole electoral process as far as the New Patriotic Party is concerned?
Brother, it is not true today. It is not true tomorrow. It will not be true in the future. That the New Patriotic Party and the government of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is influencing this national electioneering within our political party. It is untrue. It is your worth. It is your substance. It is your unique selling proposition that you can put at forefront before the delegates. It is what you tell the delegates. I can understand Sir John, but it is Sir John in saying that fear delegates. But it is what you tell the delegates, and they believe and trust that the delegates will have in you for the future, that they will vote for you. How is President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo on the ballot paper? There is no machinations today, tomorrow, or in the future that is skewed towards a particular candidate. I will say that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has worked very hard. When we started the conversation this morning, you recall my candidate here from the NDC. He said that the seat that we have from his constituency used to be their seat. True or not true?
That's true.
Exactly. And that now it is our seat. He wishes to take it back. Is that not what you want?
We are actually taking it back.
He wishes to take it back. But I can promise you, and promise the rest of the NDC caucus in Parliament, that the seats that they have taken from us, we are going to amass well and take it more from them. Right. But you see, no, let me conclude on this.
Right, conclude.
Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's influence in the New Patriotic Party is a case study that all political watchers must observe. That's the truth. Because you see, this is not the first time that we have had a technocrat turned politician rise up to become such a formidable individual within a political party. This is the first time.
Right.
This is the first time. So I would want to discount any notion out there that the New Patriotic Party, that the government of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is machinating delegates into a particular arena. Then Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia should have had an overwhelming 100% than what he had. Because this is hard work. This is hard work. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has worked hard for the votes that he had. What's the name of my friend? The disco man. Kennedy Japan. When did Kennedy Japan come into the decision to stand for flag bearer? In recent times. And even with the Honorable Kennedy Japan, he's been able to have Ghana a lot more votes than Kojo Kyerematen, who has been desiring to be flag bearer since President John Ajay Kufuor's time. I mean, the question is there to say, political scientists to come out and tell us what the people in the literature says. That if one has not been able to nurse a constituency, you know, I met a senior politician. You do know what he told me? He said every politician must have a constituency. Every politician. But I asked him why. I asked my friend why he decided to share his medical consulting room with Parliament, because he knows that every politician must have a constituency.
Right. Thank you very much, Palgrave. Let me proceed to Mr. Bayo, Dr. Bayo, who would share his brief thoughts on this issue for us before we progress to our next topic of conversation.
So I think I will be very brief on this one. We are external watchers, but very interested parties in what is happening in our opponent's camp. And we are all waiting to see what Honorable Kojo Kyerematen will say today. Whatever it is significant. I don't know which way he's going. I was hoping that he, being very close, would bring some information out.
I'm not close to Alan.
But you are within the party.
I'm not in Alan's camp.
So, but whatever
I declared my camp.
whatever it is, I think it to be a very significant event. Whatever is happening today cannot be discounted, and I agree with him on that, because the stature of the person we are talking about here is somebody who has served in government, who has run for this position before, who is a significant contributor to the ruling government. So whichever way it goes, I think even his decision to quit sent a very important message. And I think that we should not belittle his reasons for quitting, apart from the allegations that there is an establishment candidate and that they are working towards. He gave evidence of violence against his people, where His Excellency the Vice President got 100% of the vote. That is his region. What happened to his representative of Alan? What happened to the representative of Alan in that election center? Somebody was brutalized, assaulted, had eye injuries, had to come to Accra here for treatment and all of that. We cannot discount that this didn't happen. There were allegations of vote buying that came out from among themselves, top members of their party, Hobson Adoye and the rest, making very serious allegations that to date we don't know whether they have been properly investigated, refuted, or whatever. So there are really issues, and for someone the stature of Alan to take this decision, it's not a decision that will come lightly, that he's quitting from it, because he said he doesn't think the process is fair, and that if he continues, this process will yield a dividend, that the democracy he stood for, he doesn't think that is what is happening in the NPP currently. So the question is, has the NPP changed? What has changed in the party? And these are their own acts is what will let us know what is happening there. And I think that there should be some soul searching among themselves, that what exactly is happening. The final one is that if you see the kind of delegates that are in the super delegates also matter. These are not the normal delegates. In fact, a friend said that also on social media that there are two types of delegates in the NPP now. We have the VA delegates, and then we have the trotro and taxi delegates. And that the VA delegates have decided it was time for the trotro and taxi delegate to now decide. I personally believe that the decision may have looked slightly different if he had stayed, and if they had given the trotro and taxi delegates, in inverted commas, to make a decision of who they actually prefer. Pardon me. But granted that has not happened, and he has decided to quit. And I can understand why he will quit, because if you realize that the system is such that no matter what you do, you cannot get fair treatment. I don't think accepting to lose honorably, as he's putting it, is the way to go, because you must protest, and one form of protesting is quitting the system. Because if I think that I can't get justice from this system, why stay along and at the end of the day come out and cry foul? No one will believe you at that point, because you've seen the first sign of it. Your representative is assaulted, you are hearing allegations of vote buying, and you are seeing things happening real right before your own eyes. You are hearing the other candidate saying he's going to give a showdown based on all that is happening. Under such a system, really, if you stay in there and lose, will you call that an honorable loss? Would it really be the actual verdict of the people? But on the side of the NDC, we are ready. If he decides to resign and come and join us, we welcome him. We want everybody to join us, because we are forming the next government.
We are forming
the next government under the leadership of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, and we are willing to take in all technocrats, everybody that is willing to contribute to the development of this country. So we wait his decision today. If it is that he's announcing his support for His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, we will welcome it, we'll clap for him, and we'll do an event maybe to even welcome him into our party. Of course, we have our leader, and that is not contestable, so it's not something that he can come in and become our flag bearer now. So I think we'll only wait for now. Yeah.
Right, thank you very much. Let me take time to read a few messages that you have sent via our Facebook, and also if I can get the tablet, because I'm sure a lot of our viewers have also sent messages via our text lines. But let me begin with the Facebook messages. Now, this one here says that Mahama cannot be president in Ghana again. We won't make such a mistake and go for doom. So MPP, we are still fixing the country, and we shall continue to fix it more despite the worldwide economic challenges, but the battle still remains the Lord's. Greetings to Honorable Kennedy, Japan President in waiting 2024. I think Paul Griff would disagree with you on the latter part of this. Papa I says it does not lie in the rank and file of the NPP to tell whether the demonstration by the Democracy Hub have been a success or not. In fact, the whole understanding is that Ghanaians are on the streets: teachers, nurses, doctors, drivers, market women, students, the security services. They all cannot make ends meet. The truth and nothing else. Thank you for your message. Good morning, dear host. And this one is coming from Makia Preko. Breaking the 8 is not a slogan. We are just using it, but we mean it to be possible in the history of MPP in Ghana. But the only person who can change it from being a slogan to reality is Dr. Akoto Efri, the grassroots favorite. Again, Paragraph will disagree with you on this one. Let me proceed. John Bosco Nago says, hello, Pan-African TV. I wish to use this platform to say a good morning to Dr. Titus K. Bayo, the son of Warren Benis. Doctor is a symbol of development, and Lambusi is highly proud to have such an iconic personality. Let me, on behalf of all constituents of Lambusi, and that his demand to represent Lambusi to perform the representational role is enormous. The answer for Lambusi's leadership and relaunching needs we have been yearning for decades without getting is Dr. Titus K. Bayo. Thank you so much for your message. Nana Nto Amrichi, I greet you all. Keep up the good work. And good morning to you, Nana Nto. It's been a while. I trust you and find Fettel. Who I hope to see you one of these days. But I know you started a show yourself, and I've been watching from afar, and then you are doing excellent. Elizabeth Forgeorge says, this video has to be shared to the Nigerians people so that they'll see what the panelists are saying. Okay, all right. Thank you so much for your messages. Keep them coming. Also, I'll be looking forward to reading the ones that you've sent via our text lines. But let's proceed to our next topic for discussion. So Saturday, we saw the last of the Occupy Jolobi protest. I beg your pardon. It rained. It was raining in torrents on Friday, and I think Saturday as well. But they defied the rains to protest regardless. They decided to register their displeasure over what they describe as economic hardship and misgovernance from this administration. Initially, there were issues with the Ghana Police Service. On Thursday, I know that a few people were arrested, including journalists, which I find extremely abhorrent, because why would a journalist decide to go cover a protest and then you arrest him or her and then brutalize or batter the person? I know the police service has come out to deny that, which for me is a lie. I've read the statement from the Ghana Police Service, and I'm astounded. I'm surprised that they couldn't take responsibility for their own misdeeds. I am very much surprised that the Ghana Police Service would arrest journalists, batter them, and come out to say, oh, there was no such thing done. It's shocking. It's shocking, especially from the security point of view, that this institution is supposed to take care of the people. I'm going to start the conversation with you again, Palgrave Boachidankwa, for the very fact that you are government's spokesperson on security as well. You saw what happened. You saw what transpired. Your thoughts?
Well, before I go there, something was
running through my mind. I wanted to ask your position on Alan's statement you'll be making, because you're a host, but I think this is of interest to every Ghanaian. You didn't make a comment. Let me hear your view.
You want to hear my...
Yes.
Well, I have a few friends who belong to the Island camp. I have friends. Of course, I'm a journalist. It's axiomatic that I'll be having friends in all of both Akutu Island, and even Kennedy, Japan, Dr. Baumia, friends of Baumia, the overseas branch. I've forgotten their name. I'm very close friends with them. There's this guy, Diodu. I don't know if you know him. I'm good friends with Diodu. So I get intel. I hear stuff. For me, what I think he's going to resign. I think he's going to go independent. And as to whether that is going to have any form of repercussions on the MPP, I think you're a stalwart of the party, and then you cannot. This a die-in-the-wool politician, a big man for that matter, and his contributions to the party cannot be overstated. He's paid his dues, and that should he decide to go independent, it could affect the party small in some way. Maybe you might beg to differ, but you asked for my thoughts.
Yes,
this is what I think. But your comments on the protest and all concomitant problems that it came with, the police getting in the thick of affairs and affecting arrest here and there, their press statement, which they lied about anyway. I'm telling them on authority, I won't mince words, that they lied in that press statement, that they didn't beat anybody. They were beating people, was captured on camera. You arrested journalists. You came to deny that you didn't. It is a lie. It is a lie. Your thoughts?
My brother, let me give the narrative of the demonstration and the involvement of the Ghana Police Service in providing security and guidance to them. And so the Ghana Police Service received a letter from the Democracy Hub and Fix the Country group that they had wanted to have a demonstration. The letter came to the Ghana Police Service regional office September 4th, 2023. They had chosen a venue to meet, to picket and have their demonstration, which is the Jubilee House. The Ghana Police Service had a meeting with them and told them that the venue they have chosen is a security installation, and so they should choose an alternative venue. They stated that they were going to have discussions with their leadership and then come back to the Ghana Police Service, and they never came back. And then the date was fast approaching, and so the Ghana Police Service made an application to court to be able to put an injunction on their demonstration. On no other day than the day that we were celebrating the first president of the Republic of Ghana, Osajefo Kwame Nkrumah, then we realized that the Democracy Hub wanted to do a demonstration, and they had begun their demonstration. They gathered around 37 Lorry Station, came closer to the surroundings of Jubilee House, and the police made an arrest of a few of them that were found around the premises of the security installation, which they had told them to stay away from. Originally, it was supposed to be a one-day demonstration, and then they went to bring another application that they would want to have a demonstration for 3 days. Now, my brother, you and I began this conversation this morning on the threats of Niger, on the threats of Mali, and the threats of coups that have happened around a sub-region. And from where I sit, I've stated that the sub-region is extremely fragile, and every single country must be strong enough to ensure that persons who seek to demonstrate responsibly. So these arrests were made, and they were, after 48 hours, they were released, as the law will state. The Public Order Act, Act 491, is very clear on people's rights to demonstrate. But in the midst of your right to demonstrate, it's also very clear that you don't cause public nuisance or bring into mayhem public peace. So the demonstration went on. in my last brief, we picked up that this Democracy Hub had a demonstration and did not present a petition whatsoever to any government official. My brother, you and I want to be democratically responsible citizens. In fact, the president and
before you proceed, I want to find out, is it an obligation to present a petition once you embark on a demonstration? Are you obliged? Is this something you're obliged to do?
Right. I think the answer is no.
Right. Well, yes, the answer is no.
Right.
The answer is no. But you see,
it's a standard practice.
It is not standard practice, but it is the agreeable form of ensuring that your demonstration reaches a table and not a noisemaker.
Is it an agreeable form?
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm telling you that you are demonstrating. You are wanting to tell government a number of things that are happening in the country you are unhappy about. And you don't want to do that in the midst of raising voices where the government cannot hear whose voice is speaking. So you would always present a paper, which is, maybe you could say, standard practice. But for the fact that your demonstration will not be ignored and disregarded, you would want to put it on paper and give it to someone who is a government official. The people that led the demonstration, we know one gentleman, Vomowo, who has stated when he was studying in Cambridge, and I've stated that he's a student of Cambridge, doing his PhD, a lawyer. I think maybe he's taking some years away from studies to come to Ghana. But I would have wished that for somebody who is in such a reputable university, when you come to Ghana, you would want your intellectual acumen to be constructive enough to be part of the democracy that we have in this country, and not to be on the streets. I would not wish that any of my children or my friends will go to Cambridge or go to Oxford or go to Yale or go to Gordon Freeman and then leave school and come home and be on the streets demonstrating. I think it's even an apology to the faculty.
Why?
Why? Because the purpose for which you sit in the classroom, do you know why you set up this media station? So that you can bring people here to talk. People who are of substance, people who are a resource, to be able to speak to issues intellectually. If I come on your set, let me end my submission.
Right.
If I come on your show, and all I say is a language you don't understand, and a language the people watching do not understand, would you invite me here again? The plain answer, like my brother will say, no. He will say no before I even say no. No, you will not want to invite me here again. So the real goal of intellectualism for me is that when you want to contribute significantly to a democracy, nobody takes away your right to demonstrate. But in the midst of your demonstration, put a paper together so it can come for us to discuss, like this morning. We don't know why they demonstrated. You don't know why they demonstrated. Because there is no paper to it. I don't know why they demonstrated. The IGP was on the grounds of the demonstration on the day 2. They had no leader on Saturday when they demonstrated.
I want to find out from you. And I mean, I want to ask before it skips me. You're making the point that you wouldn't want your child to attend Yale, come back, leave the classroom and decide to go on the street and then to demonstrate. You argue that you feel that that is not an intellectual resort or form, or to protest. The president the current president in 1995, he demonstrated. He led about the biggest ever demonstration in the annals of this country's history. There's someone who at the time was a lawyer. He demonstrated. Why do we want to reduce demonstration to an activity of I'm finding this extremely difficult to come by the right adjectives. But why would we want to say that?
If I can add a few things, then you can respond to it.
Demonstrations are not intellectually tuned.
That's not what I'm saying.
No, but that's the argument.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
You don't understand why somebody would go to Yale or Cambridge or whatever, or Gordon, whatever. That's not man. That's not. And then decide to go to the streets.
No, let me.
And demonstrate.
You are taking my words out of context.
Right. Put them in context.
Yes, in context. You know, anytime there are demonstrations that have failed, people come back to talk about the Kumi Preko demonstration. Please pick back the Kumi Preko demonstration. Look at the issues that were presented to the then NDC government. Look at the people that were represented in the Kumi Preko, including your own chairman of this media house. Look at all of them. And look at the issues that were happening in the country then. So when we make reference of the Kumi Preko demonstration and the success of the Kumi Preko demonstration and how it got government's attention, that even after almost 20 years?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh yes, almost 20 years of the Kumi. 20 years plus. Almost 30 years. If 95, yes, that's 2 years away from 30. Almost 28 years of the Kumi Preko, almost a generation, we still reference that. It tells you that it was a successful demonstration. No, but it tells you that the people that were involved in the Kumi Preko demonstration did not leave away their intellectualism.
I'm asking
clearly.
You. I'm asking you. No.
So when we pick the Kumi Preko demonstration,
my point is that, are we belittling the relevance of demonstrations?
Because not at all.
You are, according to you, do not understand why somebody, you cannot for the life of you understand why somebody would attend Cambridge, pass out as a lawyer.
No, it's not that one. Let's say it well. Hold on. Vomowo is a student of Cambridge doing his PhD.
Right.
Yes, he's already a lawyer. That's a taking.
And you don't understand why a student of Cambridge will come out to
I don't understand why a PhD student of Cambridge would stay away from school. Almost 2 years. I don't know whether he's still doing online studies or I don't know. But I don't understand why a PhD student of Cambridge would stay away from school or either do online. I don't know all those processes because Vomo, I don't know him. He's not my friend. Maybe they know him. He's in their political party.
Is he in their political party?
They will deny.
I mean, it was not an NDC demonstration.
Of course, it will not be an NDC demonstration. But do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
How? No, I want to say that you have done a demonstration. About 15 people go and do a demonstration on the first day. The second day, I'm telling you, on the Saturday, the IGP was on the premises of the demonstration. They had no leader. When we asked where Vomowo was, he was asleep. He had gone to sleep. 15 people. The police couldn't control 15 people. It took 15 people. It took Stoneboy to become a leader of a demonstration.
Thank you very much. I'll come to you. We still have a little time.
Yeah, right. I don't think it's been fair to the demonstrators and the organizers of this demonstration. So I would start off from where he left off. Saying that he was asleep, I don't think he has an opportunity here to defend whether he was actually asleep or not. And for the masses who are watching and listening, who are believing in what the leadership of this group is saying, this can douse their spirit. And I think that it's not.
But that is what it is. It's not even present the people. The interesting is that many people who went to join the demonstration haven't realized that there was no paper to present.
No, please. I think we should make some point.
But must there be a presentation of a piece of paper before government understands that this is what the people want to tell us?
This demonstration, by all standards, was a success. Okay. To those who participated in it, to the individuals who came from their homes to come and air their voice. If for nothing, the media gave people the opportunity to speak out exactly how they feel. And we saw people make very significant statements at this demonstration. We cannot belittle the demonstration. I just want to also make a quick one that when we talk about Kumi Preko didn't happen just once. There were simmering issues. there were few failed demonstrations. There were few issues before a momentum gathered into a massive one as Kumipreko. So you cannot belittle what has happened here, what happened over the weekend. And we should just remember, he talked about the threats of all of this to the volatility in the sub-region. The suppression of that demonstration, and any demonstration for that matter, is a more significant threat than the actual demonstration itself. These were good people, civilians, unarmed. You are saying 15 people. How can our police service not be able to police 15 people? And I don't even know where the figure 15 will come from. When they ended up arresting how many people that day? 49? Or was it 39? 49, I think.
Yeah, when they started, we were 15.
Yeah,
so people came.
So when you start, when you end up arresting,
they were coming in one after the other.
You see, they know. You end up arresting 49 people.
He said I first already seen demonstration. He knows more than I do. Maybe he's reading.
We are reading, and we are monitoring. You cannot arrest 49 people in a demonstration in which 15 people participated. And when you start to arrest leaders of a demonstration, and it defies logic for me to understand why even those arrests took place. Okay, he's giving some briefing. Of course, he's a government official. I don't know the briefing he has. I'm not part of the demonstration, so I may not know, and I cannot dispute the briefing he has. But 49 people, granted that these 49 people were walking towards the Jubilee House, granted, but if you listen to their own assertion, they were arrested very far away from the Jubilee House. They had not gotten to the Jubilee House, which they would want us to call Jubilee House, which I think is an appropriate name.
It's not.
At this time.
I don't understand how a seat of government can be called Jubilee House.
For the purpose of their demonstration, that is what they are calling.
Today, he is saying it is Jubilee House and he's happy with it.
No.
Because he's in opposition.
I am saying that these people, let's not miss the fact, these people were not at the Jubilee House. Their arrest did not take place at the Jubilee House. Right. The event that occurred that day were a very sad spectacle. You arrest innocent civilians who are demonstrating, distribute them across police stations like they are criminals. Lawyers come to defend them, and getting access has been a challenge. Some of the lawyers were manhandled. Media persons go there to report these issues, and who didn't see on the screens how some people's dress were torn. Okay? And you say there's no manhandling. And that's what I come to when I talk about the law. You see, when you are a very lay person, some aspect of the law, it makes it very difficult for you to understand. For us to come have government defending and the security saying that there is no record of violence because no one has made a formal report, it's something that is very difficult for anybody to appreciate. So you are telling me that if you slap me, you arrest me, you put me in police, and I have not had the opportunity to make a formal report, and this is on screen, there's evidence that it didn't happen and that there was no violence. Anyway, I think that is not my main point, but I am saying that this demonstration was very useful. I think it's successful, and the uniqueness of this, from where I sit and from what I see, is that individuals, and he's talking about not having leadership. Well, there were some people who wrote the letters, and those leaders, there were people who engaged the police, and those leaders, there were those who called for the demonstration, and they the leaders of the demonstration. If you have arrested the leaders away, and you come back and tell us that at the time there were no leaders at the place, what are we talking about here? The other thing is that I also have a PhD. I'm an academic. I'm a senior lecturer. The expression of academic freedom and the expression of freedom, okay, the freedom to express your mind is a significant thing that every academic is taught. You should have the freedom of mind to express your thoughts, to express exactly what you feel and what you believe in. And so if it is of the firm belief of the gentleman, he mentioned his name, that at this point coming to do this is a national call, and his call resonates with people, I don't see why a break in someone's PhD to come and do this will be seen as I don't know the correct word to use, but let me say, for want of a better word, not a good use of his time. People have personal ambitions, people have plans for their life, and they determine what they want to do with their life at what particular time. So I think that bit really, and I would side with you, that coming on the street, whether you are from Yale, whether you are a professor at Yale or at Cambridge, Oxford, wherever, if you believe that it is in your right to demonstrate, you have the right to go on the streets. And the streets is an avenue for expression. The emphasis of the lack of a submission of a petition. Please, when you have a demonstration where people have the opportunity, you don't know what that arrest the first day would have done to the organization of this demonstration. You don't know what it meant to them. You don't know whether they had a plan. Now he had to read, for what I saw, he had to read his speech from a phone on that day. If I watch it on telly, I wasn't at the place. When they were rounding up, they made different attempts to go to the Jubilee House, they were not allowed. If you had selected their leaders to even go to the Jubilee House to submit a petition, and then they say they have no petition, then you can make a statement. Who were they to present the petition to? Which government official was there? You prevented them. You didn't give them any avenue to go and do anything. And now they stand in public, read out how they feel. People have the opportunity to say whatever they believe in, and you say there is no petition, and that means that demonstration is not valid? I don't think so. There is a local saying that when you want to speak to God or to someone in hierarchy, sometimes you speak into the air. The people have vented out exactly how they feel. Anybody who dares and is interested to listen have heard them. And I think they were making more of a call to the Ghanaian citizen. They have said it's not the last that we are going to hear of them. They are planning other demonstrations in December. I don't know what the form and nature those will take. But I think the takeaway point that I want to make on this particular event is that what the police did and the response of government is something that should be taught in schools as something never to be encouraged. You cannot, innocent people who are going unarmed, what is the security threat with 39 or 49 innocent people walking towards the Jubilee House? And they are not even there. You had the right to barricade that huge number on the last day, and you couldn't have barricaded 49 people away, but to arrest them, to send a signal to anybody who wants to come out there that when they come out they'll be molested, or what? You want to push the people into suppression so they cannot express. Government must know, and I'm glad that he is a spokesperson on security and he gets security briefing, that when you suppress activities like this, in my view, it's more of a security threat than the actual demonstration. You cannot suppress the media, you cannot suppress the masses from coming out to say exactly what they feel. And that is a right that no one should toil with. Because when people don't have an avenue to vent out their anger, to vent out their frustration, when any individual gets up and calls for anything, you will find people following, right? But these are civil people who just wanted to vent out their anger. Give them the opportunity. They should not follow a military person. They made a clear announcement. Security people were not welcome to this demonstration, that they were not going to go there with any, they didn't want anybody. They made this days before the demonstration. Why on earth would their just movement be a threat? And the police statement, to say the least, and the commentary following from government communicators, most of them is unsavory, to say the least, as far as this demonstration is concerned. You have demonstrated before, and all of you, when you were in opposition, participated in various forms of demonstration. What has changed that in this country no one can speak anymore? Why? I think I'll leave it here.
Right. Thank you very much. Mr. Park, have anything to add?
No.
Right. Thank you very much. We wish you the very best for Ibuakwa North, right?
Yes, Ibuakwa North.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Park,
I think I also wish him the very best.
Mr. Park Wachidankwa is government spokesperson on governance and security. He has the Ibuakwa North seats also in his sights, hoping to become the parliamentary candidate going into the 2024 general elections. Also, Dr. Titus Bayo is also a member of the National Democratic Congress. He's the parliamentary candidate. He has already jumped that hurdle, by the way. The parliamentary candidate for the Lambusi constituency in the Upper West region of Ghana. Thank you so much for your time this morning. To those of you who watched across the continent, we're extremely grateful. We do not take your support for granted. And also, special greetings to the good people of Dagbre-Boire in the northeast region. Those of you in Wundua, Timpila, Kulgona, and all these other parts of the northeast region, we are extremely grateful. We know that Pan-African Television is the station of choice, especially in that enclave. And once again, we do not take your support for granted. To the hundreds of you who watched across the other parts of the country, thank you so much for always watching Pan-African Television. It's been a rainy Monday morning. You'd want to pick an umbrella when stepping out. Also be careful, especially those of you who live in marshy areas. And if you're not going to work and there's no need for you to go out, just stay indoors. Cook your jollof and then eat. That's where we'll draw curtains on today's edition of the show. My name is Kojo Kyerematen. So it's been a pleasure. I'll catch you same time tomorrow. Bye-bye.